17 months ago, I bought these two exact cards for $540,000. And this week, I sold both of them with Heritage Auctions for $2,010,000, 233% return in 17 months. By the time I'm done with this video today, I am hoping I can influence you to consider investing into cards. So there are four different types of people who buy cards, and before I get into it, I want to tell you how I got into cards myself. I got some points here on what you ought to consider before buying cards. For me, I've been collecting cards since 1989. In Germany, I was buying soccer cards. Then I came to the States, I started buying baseball cards. That's kind of how I got into it. I had a Shaq rookie card, Stadium Club. I loved it. You know, Shaq was coming out. At that time, there was Peyton, Sean Kemp, you know, Sergei Fedorov, Upper Deck. There was Jaromir Jagr, Juan Gonzalez, Sheffield, all of these things that I was collecting. But there's something that's happened to cards in the last few years, and let me explain to you what this is. For the longest time, banks, when they lend money to people, they didn't know who to lend the money to. It's kind of a risk. You'd come in and say, you know, I got some good credit. How do I know? They would call around. Do you know about this guy? This guy wants $100,000. This guy wants $50,000. Banks got screwed many times, giving money to the wrong people, and they ran off with it until Equifax, TransUnion, Experian came out, right? Similar to insurance companies, they have Moody's and S&P rating. They'll say, this insurance company is rated AAA. Be careful with this insurance company, it's BBB. So you may have a risk. Banks finally got a score and they said, well, this guy's got a 738 score. He's got this much credit, this much. We'll give you $100,000. We'll give you $1 million. Now the banks had something to go off of. Cards in the last few years, PSA came out, there's Beckett, there's SGC, some of them that have been out there, but PSA has become the face of cards, that they grade cards. Matter of fact, I believe the first card PSA ever graded was a Hannes Wagner card. They call it the Holy Grail. Between that and the Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps, the Hannes Wagner ended up being bought, I think the first time for a big price was between Bruce McNall and Wayne Gretzky in 1991 for $451,000. And that grading thing took off. So you would send your card to Newport, they would grade the card, you pay $5, $20, $40. Okay, boom, you got a PSA 8, PSA 9, PSA 10. And it goes from there. And then there's a reference where people can tell how many PSA 10s, how many PSA 9s. Is it a pop 1? Is it a pop 2? Is there 3 pop? Like these two cards that I sold, one of them sold for $1.29 million, the other one sold for $720,000. This is a pop 2, this is a pop 2, meaning there's only 2 of them graded at PSA 10 and the market wanted to pay for it, right? So PSA changed the game. Why is it so important to you? I don't buy artwork. I have maybe $500,000 of artwork, not a big portfolio, but I don't buy artwork. Here's why. Some people don't like it when I say this, but I want to tell you why. I believe there are many rooms for manipulation and theft in the art industry. You'll see many times, you'll see stats that you read about saying 70% of the art you buy is fake. Let me say this one more time. 70% of the art sold in the marketplace is fake. Now, some will say that's absolutely incorrect. Some will say there's a lot of truth behind that number. I'll give you one story. One of the biggest con artists in art pulled off a magical thing for himself. I believe there's a documentary about this. Picasso's about to die. He goes and meets with a local guy, painter, who paints like Picasso, but obviously he's not as good as Picasso. He pays him some money and says, hey, can you go out there and paint something close to Picasso's? He does. He takes that painting, calls Picasso, says, I want to get your opinion on a painting that a local artist came up with. Would you be willing to meet with me? The guy goes and meets with Picasso. Picasso says, I don't know if it's a great painting. It's okay. He says, do you mind if I take a picture with you on this one so I can go tell this local artist that I met with you? Picasso agrees. They take a picture before Photoshop. Then he waits. Picasso dies. He comes out and says, this is the last painting Picasso ever painted. Everybody wanted it. He got a few $1 million check, even though he only paid a couple hundred for it. That's when you start noticing the amount of fraud business that can happen with painting, but not in cards. Because a company like PSA knows how to verify the validity, the fakeness, the reprint, and all. They're not perfect, but it's a 99% accuracy versus a 70% margin for error. Does that make sense? So having said that, prior to thinking about investing into cards, I want you to think about a few different things. Number one is there are 4 different types of investors when it comes down to cards. Number one is the amateur, the nostalgic. This is somebody that, you know, loves Kobe Bryant. They buy a Kobe Bryant card. This is somebody that loves, you know, Pete Rose, even though he went through his issue, so they have a couple Pete Rose cards. There's somebody that loves a Mark McGwire. They love an A-Rod. They love a Michael Jordan. They just love it. I'm a Chicago fan. I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. So they buy play. It's nostalgic. It's emotional, right? And they look at the card every once in a while. No plans of selling it. They just buy and keep it, right? The second kind of card collectors are flippers. Flippers are somebody that buys it For $50, sell it for $75. Buy it for $5,000, sell it for $6,000. Buy it for $1,000, sell it for $2,000. There are many flippers out there that buy and sell immediately because it's easy to flip. There's people that are flippers full time, by the way. All they do is they buy it here, they sell it over here, and sometimes the market all of a sudden jumps just like a stock does. And then there are gamblers. There's a lot of gamblers right now going to the card industry who have no clue what they're doing. They just come in and say, I'm gonna buy this card because I'm gonna make so much money. Because I heard this one guy, Vegas Dave, bought a Trout card for $400,000, sold it a year and a half later for $3.9 million. That's how I'm gonna be a millionaire. Or this story and that story and all. I got so many messages with the video because this story was all over the place. TMZ, People, Forbes, it's been all over the place, the fact that these cards sold, right? So a lot of people have been reaching out to me, Pat, this is your card. This is your card. Oh my gosh. So I'm having a lot of different conversations with brokers in the industry that want to talk to me about other potential cards. The last type are investors. I want to spend today talking to you on why you ought to consider a small portion of your investments going into cards. Before going into that, I want to make sure you know which one of those four you are. So one is what? Amateur nostalgic. Two is the flipper. Three is the gambler. Four is the investor. I'm speaking to those that want to potentially be investors of cards. So if you're choosing to be an investor, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind. An investor may fall in love with a company. They may fall in love with a product. You may fall in love with a card, but you buy logically. It's just like marriage. You may fall in love with a girl or a guy, but you don't marry emotionally. You fall in love emotionally, you marry logically. You invest and you fall in love emotionally with a card, but you invest logically. You got to sit there and say, is this something I really want to invest in or not? Second thing, just like you buying a company or a stock, there's three different types of things to look at in stocks. You can buy small cap, very risky. You can buy mid cap, somewhat risky. You can buy large cap, not that risky. What is the difference? Small cap is a rookie player that came in and you're thinking this guy's gonna be great. Zion Williamson, oh my gosh, he's gonna be the next big thing. Small cap hasn't done anything yet. He may get injured and be out of the business. He may completely hurt himself. But if you buy him now, 10 years later, he wins 3 championships, you make 20x, you make 30x on the card. That's a small cap. Mid cap is a player that's been around for a few years and he's kind of got enough street credit where he can do great things. So you don't have that much risk with them, but they're not going to give you the kind of return that a rookie may give you, right? And then you have a large cap, which is a very credible player. Brady is a large cap. Jordan is a large cap. Even Trout is a large cap, right? Some of these guys are large cap. So you have to know what you're buying with the risk factor that you have. Small cap, mid cap, large cap, same goes with cards. The other one is buying timeline. You invest short-term, mid-term, long-term. Are you buying to flip in the next 6 to 12 months? Well, that may not be, you may buy one card that may not be a good short-term investment, but it may be a great long-term investment. You may buy a card that's mid-term. I'm willing to keep this for the next 2 to 5 years. Okay, great. Then you got some cards that you buy that could be a 10-year card. You buy a John Moran card, and you say, I'm willing to sit on this for 10 years. I think this guy's going to be the face of the league 5 years from now. Great. You may buy a Luka card, and you say, I want to sit on the Luka card for the next 5 to 10 years. That may be a long-term card. So you got to kind of sit there and think about, as you're buying cards, how you're going to buy. Next one, basic rule of investment. Never invest in anything you know nothing about. Nothing changes with cards. A lot of people come and say, well, Pat, how come you don't own Bitcoin? How come you don't do crypto? How come you don't do this? I am not an expert in that. So because I'm not an expert, I don't wake up in the morning saying, let me go buy a bunch of ... So if you have no interest in what I'm talking about, don't even spend a second into it. Don't even think about investing anything into it. But if there is a part of interest in it, you got to do a lot of research before you start investing into this industry that you know nothing about. One of the best ways to do it, go with a pool. Go with somebody. Like, you know how you have a money manager that's got a big reputation for flipping money? You go and say, hey, I want to give you $500,000 on the next deal you do. Can I go in on $500,000 with you? Meaning, I buy $1 million card, you want to own 50% of it? No problem. So we go and you give me $500,000. I buy $1 million card. This thing goes to $2 million. I get $500,000. You get $500,000 because you trust the decision-making process of whoever the investor is. That may not be a bad way for you to get into the card. Or just kind of go into a little bit, study for yourself, give it 3, 6, 12 months, then kind of go in slowly. Don't all of a sudden go in with a lot of money. So the rule of thumb of investing doesn't change. Don't invest in anything you don't know about. If you don't know anything about it, don't start now. If you find somebody that's very good at it, go in partially with them with $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. Let him manage some of that portfolio for you as you're getting into cards. So next point, just like you invest in industries, the same applies to cards. What do I mean by that? Industries. I can invest in tech. I can invest in banking. I can invest in real estate. I can invest into pharmaceuticals. In cards, you can invest in basketball, NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB, Pokemon, boxing, soccer. There are so many different industries you can invest in. Typically, it helps if you know a lot about that industry and you know who the player is. If you don't know a lot about it, don't go into that industry. Just like if you don't know nothing about real estate, don't just go in and say, I'm going to buy into real estate, but you know a lot about banking. You know a lot about pharmaceuticals. You know a lot about technology. The same thing applies when you're investing into different industries of cards, some being sports, some being collectible cards like Pokemon, and some being other sorts of cards that are out there. Now, if you're going to buy sports cards, there's two different types of sports cards. You know, they'll talk about modern day cards or vintage cards. Many times vintage cards, some say it's to me, vintage is 70s and 60s, but a lot of people nowadays say 80s is vintage. I had a guy the other day said, I love listening to oldies. I said, oh, you like 60s? He says, no, 80s. I said, how old are you? He says, 21. I said, man, I love 80s. He says, well, you're old. To a guy that's listening to 80s. But some people consider 80s as vintage. I look at it as 60s. Let's talk about both of them. What is the risk and benefit of buying modern day versus vintage? Let's focus on modern day. If you buy a modern day card, what's the benefit? Bigger upside. What else is the benefit? There could be a lot of good things that could happen where a person could win a championship, person could go out and win an MVP, person could do a lot of different things. What is the risk of a modern day? Injury, hurt, doing something stupid, drugs, rape. I know these things are weird, but nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I can't wait to go buy an O.J. Simpson card. Those bad decisions hurt cards. Now let's talk about vintage. You go buy a vintage card. What is the risk of a vintage card? Really, the only risk of a vintage card is if they do something very stupid after their career is over with. And people don't buy cards when a player does something stupid in their personal life. Something dramatically stupid is what they do that typically gets the card value to come lower. Now, what is the benefit of buying a vintage card? It's already established. There's not that many to print anymore. It's an old school one. People want vintage. There's going to be a little bit more excitement to the fact that it's a 30-year-old card. This is a 40-year-old card. Like this is 1979. It's a 41-year-old card. You know, the Mickey Mantle 52 tops, that's 52. That is a 68-year-old card, a 1933 Babe Ruth card. You're talking about a 87-year-old card. Something cool about 1939 play ball Ted Williams. That's a 81-year-old card, right? Vintage. Story to it. You know, when you buy vintage cards, there are certain things that can happen that can make that value of the card go higher, and we're going to talk about that next. What events makes cards go up? Well, I'll give you a couple stories. Michael Jordan's PSA 10 rookie card, pre the documentary Last Dance, was selling for around $25,000 to $30,000. Last Dance comes out, people spend 5 weeks watching 2 episodes a week of Michael Jordan every Sunday night from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and people realize, this guy is insane. I want his card. After Last Dance, that same PSA 10 card that was selling for $25,000 went to $160,000 in 5 weeks. Like this, because everybody said, oh my gosh, this guy's a beast. They went and bought the card. So if a documentary can get a player like Michael Jordan to get his card to go to a different place. A movie, Jackie Robinson movie comes out, oh my gosh, this is Jackie, I want a Jackie Robinson card. Oh my gosh, this is Roberto Clemente, I want it. Oh my gosh, Babe Ruth, I had no idea it was this big. I didn't know he was a Cy Young pitcher, hitter, 760 home runs, Roger Maris broke by his guy. I didn't know that. People want. So there's a lot of things that can happen for somebody to want to buy that card. I'll give you a couple other stories to be thinking about on what types of cards to be thinking about. This is just me, I like PSA 10 rookie cards is what I like. I'm a PSA 10 rookie card guy, but I tip like I own a couple Babe Ruth PSA 8 and PSA 6 and PSA 5 cards. Yes, they're $50,000 cards or $250,000 cards that I have, but that's 33 type of cards, but I typically like PSA 10 rookie cards. First year. There's a lot of people that like the autographs. There's some of the autographs that are very good, you know, that you're dealing with, 1 of 1 or 1 of 99, or like the Luka cards or the LeBron cards. These cards, you know, they're selling for a lot of money. Yes, I like those things, but I like PSA 10 rookie cards because it's the first one. So as they're going up, and a player that hasn't won it, like who to invest into? Player who hasn't won a championship, but they could. Who are some of those names? Patrick Mahomes won a championship. He got a $500 million contract. Everybody's saying he's the next Brady, right? So his stock kind of went like this. Boom, he won. Boom. Lamar Jackson hasn't won one yet. So he's here. Russell Wilson won. Boom, right? Deshaun Watson hasn't won yet. Garoppolo hasn't won yet. You know, Joe Burrow, which is a great investment right now, is because he was coming on like that with a lot of confidence. He got hurt, and not just a good regular injury, a terrible season-ending injury. So guess who's thinking about Joe Burrow right now? Not a lot of people, only the real investors that know this guy could make a comeback. Joe Burrow is the kind of guy that could go win a championship. You buy Joe Burrow stock today, card today, and Joe Burrow's forgotten about. No one's talking about him this season because he's gone, right? But he comes back and he wins a championship in 2 years. If you buy, $1,000 card today, 2 years from now he wins a championship, 5 years from now he wins a championship, that $1,000 card could be at $18,000 $50,000 card, right? I'll give you another one. Kevin Durant, the last 12 months, quiet. Kyrie Irving, quiet. But if this year Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant win a championship and they go to the finals, you better believe that $50,000 card could be a $250,000 card within 12 months because no one's been thinking about Kyrie and Kevin Durant. The Golden State Warriors, quiet. No one's talking about him. Klay Thompson, not a bad buy. Klay's been hurt 2 years now. He's been hurt again. Is he going to make a good comeback? Is he not? People are scared. They're scared of Klay cards. But if you buy Klay, Klay comes back, they win a championship. These are some of the opportunity value buys that are also out there for you to consider. Let me make a bold prediction for you to be thinking about. Maybe this analogy will kind of help you out. You can't buy any more land. This is an old school quote. There is no more land to buy. Buy the land because we can't build more land. We have land, right? This industry is not going away. You know why? Because you can't build any more cards. It's not like dollar, like this last year we printed $3 trillion and we send out, money to people as a stimulus, right? Because we can go print more money, value dollar goes down. You can't say, let me go print some more 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card. You can't do that. The amount of real estate of that card is gone. That's it. It's everywhere. Many grandmas and grandfathers or mothers and dads threw those cards away of their kids. They didn't think anything's gonna be worth it. There are many of those Mickey cards that have been trashed. That mom said, can't believe that, you didn't do your homework, boom, throw the cards away. Don't know it, some of those cards are worth $500,000 today. Gone, right? So the inventory of cards is not that big. They're numbered. What does this mean? The scary thing about what's happened the last 24, 36 months is who's paying attention to cards today? Private equity firms and billionaires, not millionaires. Millionaires have been buying cards here and there. Oh, I got a $100,000 card, I got $1 million card. Private equity guys that are sitting on a couple $1 billion are coming and saying, buy 100 of Jordan's PSA $160,000 card. Spend $60 million there. Go buy 200 of this. Go buy 50 of this. Are you? Yeah. Let's go and deploy $150 million. That's what's going on today. Which means what? These are people that are in the buy and hold game. They're gonna sit there and they're gonna bid high on cards that go on the market. You know why? Let me explain to you why. Let me explain to you why. So imagine you own 50 Michael Jordan PSA 10 cards. Okay, there's only 300 of them right now. Imagine you own 50 of them, right? And it's worth $160 right now. One of them's being sold at Heritage Auctions, hypothetically. And the last bidder is $150, $160. You own the 50. This is what's going on. You own the 50. You come out and you buy one for $400,000. You lost $240,000, but you made $240 times 50, which means you just made $12 million. Do you understand what I just said right there, right? That's what's going on today. Once the money people come in, value goes up because they're not controlling the market. Unfortunately, it's not a regulated industry like the stock market, which means there's plenty of room for manipulation of the people that control the market. And many money people are starting to control the market. If this makes sense to you, this is why a lot of people are saying, damn it, I got to get into cards. And I've been saying this for about 15 years because I'm a card guy. Behind closed doors, my card collection is a pretty fat card collection. These are just two of them I put out there. I don't get out there and go buy packs and open up boxes. That's not my game. I don't do that. That's the flippers. That's the day-to-day nostalgia. I'm not that guy. I love cards, but I want great cards. There's one thing that you may want to be thinking about when it comes down to buying cards, specifically when it's modern day cards. You have to look at a card as a stock, meaning I bought 70 Trae Young rookie cards, PSA 10. I just bought 70 of them. Why? I think Trae could be a Steph Curry, and I set them aside. I didn't pay a lot of money on it, $200, $150 a card, set them aside. I bought 50 Luka PSA 10 cards, and you set them aside. It's a stock, so sometimes you buy one big card, and sometimes you buy stocks, like you buy 10, you buy 20, you buy 50, you buy 100, right? And you set them aside. You don't even think about them, and then you sell them later on as 70 cards, or you sell them as lots of 5, lots of 10. You have the choice and the flexibility what direction to go to, or you say, I'm only gonna sell 5 of my cards, right? I'm gonna keep the rest of the 85 or 75. You can do that. So look at cards as well as a stock, that you may buy 10 of them. 20 of them rather than just one. So if you enjoyed this video and want to know some of my card collection, I did a video a year and a half ago showing some of my card collection at the time. If you've not seen it, click over here. And secondly, if you're in the card world yourself and you want to talk in any way, buy, opportunity, sell, anything you want to talk about, send me a tweet at Patrick Bet David. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.